Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, The Art and Science of Marketing Analytics. We're excited to have you. My name is Megan, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. In this presentation, we'll be hearing from marketing experts at Looker, who will dive into the art and science of marketing analytics, and will break down what is meant by operationalizing marketing data, how to track demand generation key performance metrics, how to use data to track leads through your funnel, and how to create a full feedback loop between departments. But before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items. Please note the slides will advance automatically throughout the presentation. To enlarge the slides, click the Enlarge Slides button located in the right-hand corner of your presentation window. Should you need technical assistance, click on the Help widget located on the bottom left corner of your console. We encourage you to submit questions at any time throughout the presentation using the Q&A widget at the bottom of your console. You'll also receive an email with instructions for accessing the on-demand recording of today's webinar. Now I'd like to introduce today's speakers. With us today are Lisa Daniels, Vice President of Demand Generation and Operations at Looker, Brenda Kring, Director of Marketing Operations and Analytics at Looker, Kyle Coleman, Senior Director of Sales Development and Optimization at Looker, and Elena Rowell, Product Marketing Manager at Looker. Elena, I'll pass this over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. So she gave you a bit of an overview of the agenda. I think it's really exciting that we're going to kind of look at this through the lens of the funnel. But what I do really want to point out here is number 6 on this agenda. We want this to be as collaborative as a conversation as you can have over a webinar. So we really encourage you to use that Q&A button that Megan talked about. So we're talking about operationalizing marketing data. But what does that mean? Operationalizing is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and I think that it's important to stop and think about what we really mean and what we really intend to do when we talk about that. And so practicality is really the word that I think is most important to this. It's important for companies to have high-level metrics. It's important for C-level executives to keep track of things. But those are not operational metrics. Practical metrics that you can look at every day to understand how you and your team is doing and how the process that you have in place is performing is far different than that. So I like to think about this in 2 ways. First off, there's our operational metrics that help us monitor our day-to-day goings-on. And then there's the metrics that help us dig in to understand what's going on with those. So for day-to-day needs, some of the questions that you could be answering with operational metrics are, is this campaign running smoothly? And that's not, was my campaign successful? It's, we launched this yesterday and we expect to see this. How is it going? Are we on track to hit our goals? We know what we're supposed to be doing, and how are we looking for that? Let's not find out after the quarter that we've missed quota. Is the data broken? This is always a hard problem because data tends to fail silently. Brenda is going to dig in on this one a lot, so that's cool. And finally, has anything changed since last week? We see these spikes in our data, and it's important to be able to understand why those happened. So speaking about why, that's really the next level. If we're tracking something operationally, it means that it's a practical metric for us, which means that if something changes in it, we need to be able to go do something, and we need to be able to learn more about it. So in the situation where we just launched the campaign, maybe it's not performing because our pay-per-click ads aren't contributing like they normally do. Let's go dig in. If we're not on track to hit quota, maybe we have regions, though, that are. What can we see that they are doing that the underperforming regions aren't doing? Is there data? The ongoing question, digging in and really being able to track something down to maybe the person or the click level is incredibly important for troubleshooting things like this. And finally, what the heck happened on Tuesday? When we see that spike, it's important to be able to dive in and understand what happened, why it happened, and if it was good, how can we replicate this? And if it was bad, what do we need to do to fix this and make sure it doesn't happen again? So I'm going to pass it off to Lisa Daniels to talk about demand generation KPIs.
Thank you, Elena. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out today and listening to us talk about our favorite topic, marketing funnels and data. So I want to give you a few of my thoughts on what is the best way to track your demand generation or lead generation efforts. The following examples are some of the things I have found that have worked best when leveraging data as a team leader. I think one of the most important things you want to do is really group the different types of metrics that you do and give yourself a framework so that you can have a starting point, not just to get your analytics set up, but have a framework in which to talk to other people on your team and other people throughout the company about the metrics that are important to you and demonstrating the importance and performance of marketing. So I have 3 types here, and they are the continual tracking of goal achievement, like Elena mentioned. There's, of course, that cross-team reporting, the place where you start getting feedback from other teams. And then, of course, improving those KPI. How are your key performance indicators working, and what do you need to do to make them work better? So let me just talk a little bit about each one. Tracking to your most important goals. This ensures that you are answering your most important questions. These are questions like, are we on track to meet our goals? Are we going to miss our goals? You want to know this at the drop of a hat. You are looking at this daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually, depending on how your business is set up. This is where you, as a leader and person responsible for generating that top of the funnel, can either reassure everybody and say everything is going well, it's going as planned, or something has changed, we have an issue, we need to adjust. Secondly, you want to track your deliverables through the sales and marketing funnel, so cross-team reporting. This is where you're tracking your top-level metrics as they move through the funnel onto other teams and seeing if ultimately you are getting the end result you want for the entire company. You're asking questions like, are we delivering enough leads, opportunities, or whatever it is you need to deliver? Are we delivering quality? Are your programs delivering the dollar value you really need at a cost that is appropriate for your company at the stage it is at? And then lastly, KPI optimization. This is where you look deeply at those regularly tracked key performance indicators. You look at things like return on investment. Are you getting the money that you are investing back in spades? You're looking at trends by segment. You're looking at business units. You're looking at channels, performance from all of these types of things. You are looking at improvement for certain conversion rates like opportunity to win and pipeline to spend. So let me go ahead and dig into that first area, the continual tracking of goal and achievement. I suggest that you start at the highest metric you can. You want to keep it simple so that you can very easily and quickly understand those key metrics and drop them in the hallway conversation if you need to. And this will tell you today if you have a problem and you need to go dig deeper to make some changes. In this example, I have just 3 key metrics. Your first one is percent through quarter. This could be the week, it could be the month, it could be the year, depending on how your business is set up. And this is just a point of reference for how much time you have to hit your goal. It also means you have a certain amount of time to go and fix something if things are not working as you had hoped or planned. The second one I have here is percent to lead goal. This is a very common marketing goal, and so it's often the first KPI for a top of the funnel in a business-to-business situation. The third metric I have here is percent to opportunity. That handoff from marketing to sales is another common metric. In this example itself, we're 73% through the quarter, or 56% to a lead goal, which would be a little scary, but then you're looking at your opportunity to goal and you're at just under 73%, So it means you may not hit that top KPI, but you are going to hit your second KPI, which is actually the most important KPI here, because this is what you're handing to the sales team that they will then go work. So in reality, you may be delivering less quantity, but you are delivering more quality. And again, these three basically represent the beginning of the marketing funnel. And why do you want just these three? These are the fastest moving KPI. They are the most relevant to a short time frame. You have time to act and make changes and try to fix things if things are not working. These are the metrics you look at. They're the ones your team looks at, and they're the ones that are very easy for you to share across to other people in the company. But of course, you need to dig deeper. You will never just look at these three, and that's the beauty of data, especially marketing data. There is so much of it. So depending on how your business is set up, you will likely have different groupings, different hierarchies, and different cohorts of data. It could be by product line, sell by channels like website or events. It could be regions, different types of partners, and of course, different types of sales teams, like maybe your direct sales team. In the top example I have here, I am showing achievement to goal by two groupings, segment and region. The bottom look is, the bottom chart is looking at achievement by a specific region by marketing tactic. You really want to be able to look at your data from multiple points of view, because all of your internal constituents are looking at their sales performance by their point of view. This is also where you and your team get to really dig in and get a quick look of how a specific region, cohort, or business is working, and it highlights areas you want to dig into even deeper. So in that top look, that top grid table, we have a line item SMB, and it's doing great. It's 120% to goal. That's fabulous. You can go home at night and sleep really well. But as you go down the chart, you see line item 4, ENT, and it is, 47% to goal. So it is struggling. And if you were 73% to the quarter, your ENT team would be probably talking to you on a regular basis. So you and your team would dig in there and figure out what you can do to improve it. So again, just make sure you're digging into your data, looking at it from multiple points of view so that you can get quick snapshots, but you can also drill deeper as needed to make changes. Okay, that is all I have. Let me hand it off to Brenda, who will talk to you about some real experiences she has had in tracking leads through the marketing funnel and ensuring the systems are working.
Sorry about that. Skipped ahead real quick. So thank you, Lisa. As you said, I'm Brenda. I manage the marketing operations and analytics team at Looker. And one of the main objectives of my team is to make sure that once marketing and demand generation create leads, they are able to flow through that funnel smoothly and get to the sales team easily for follow-up. And most of the time, that process is happening in the background, and no one outside of operations pays a huge amount of attention to it, at least until something goes wrong. And the way most of us in operations find out that something isn't working is when we get complaints from our key stakeholders. So some of these may look familiar to you. Some of the common things that we hear are complaints from sales about, I got this lead, but it's not in my territory, or it's missing a key piece of information, so I can't follow up. Or we'll hear from marketing about how they just did this fantastic campaign. They're super excited about it, but they're not finding any of their leads in Salesforce. Or what probably happens most frequently is we don't hear about it at all. We don't know that there's a problem going on. And those are leads that are just sitting in your system untouched and unloved. So if any of these things are happening, those are potential prospects of yours and of ours that are going to waste because we don't know about them or we don't have enough information to take action on them. To understand a little bit about why those challenges take place, let's take a look at some of the steps that happen from the time a lead is received by marketing and then passed off to the sales team. When we first get a lead, it gets added to our marketing automation platform, in our case Marketo, and it either comes in through a form completion or a list upload. We then need to enrich and normalize the data. This happens through a number of different third-party data sources and some automated processes. We then need to score our data. So we need to know, is this a demographic fit for our company? Is it a behavioral fit? Are they showing interest? Then we need to qualify it. Is this something that is ready for sales to follow up, or do we need to nurture it further, or is this just something we're going to reject out of hand and it's never going to be a fit? And then we're finally ready to assign it to an owner. And this could be by size of business, by region, it could be named accounts, a number of different things. Those are a ton of different processes that are running at the same time, and they're dependent on one another to run properly. And if one of those things breaks down, it affects everything else down the line. To help my team manage all of those steps, the marketing operations team created this pipeline QA dashboard. And it looks like a ton of stuff here, but what it does is it allows us to see all of those steps in a single place. We can make sure that they're all happening, and if something isn't happening, if something isn't going right, we have the ability to take action quickly. My team and I, we look at this definitely on a daily basis, and in some cases, even on an hourly basis. So we're looking for things like, are all of our incoming leads categorized correctly? Did our data append service fire, and what percentage data did it return? Do all of our leads have an owner? Let's take a quick look at a real example that we actually had recently of how we leverage this dashboard. In order for marketing operations to qualify leads and for sales development to prioritize and follow up, we need to score them. We need to decide if it's actually a fit for us. And like many companies, we use a third-party tool for our demographic scoring. From a QA perspective, we want to know not only how the leads are split from good to bad, from A to D leads, but we also just need to know that the scoring is happening, validate that there is a score on all of our lead records. So here's a chart showing what percentage of our leads are receiving a demographic score. And in our ideal world, 100% of these should be getting a score. And as we can see here, most of the time, that's pretty close to true. However, we did have 1 week where that percentage dropped off pretty dramatically. And that information by itself, while it's interesting, it doesn't actually help us if we, one, don't know about it at the right time, and two, we don't understand why it happened and are able to fix it. So first, we need to be aware that the problem is happening at the time that it's happening. And for us to do this, we've set up alerts that trigger when certain activities get outside of normal ranges. This makes sure that someone on the team is aware of the issue right away. And in this particular scenario, our volume of leads with a score dropped below 95%, which triggered that email. Then we need to understand why a problem is happening. So we start to look at some of those other charts that were on the dashboard to get a little bit more context. If we combine this first chart with the demographic score with another chart that shows how many leads were enriched with headquarter country, we can start getting a clear picture. And as it turned out, that particular week, our data enrichment service started getting errors. And with the country missing, we weren't able to score some of the leads. You can see it actually took us about 5 or 6 weeks to resolve that core data enrichment issue, but we were able to find a workaround for the demographic scoring, and that part of our process was able to return to pretty normal levels within just a couple of weeks. That's just one quick, super practical example of how we monitor a ton of different activity that's going on to keep our leads flowing through the funnel. This is clearly a very operational example. This is in no way a core business KPI by any stretch of the imagination, but it is important for keeping the business running smoothly. So next, I'd like to hand off to Kyle, who's going to look at the next step of the lead life cycle and the qualification by the sales development team. So we'll hand to you, Kyle.
Thank you, Brenda. Hello, everybody. This is Kyle Coleman. I'm the Senior Director of Sales Development and Optimization here at Looker. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with sales development, we are the bridge between marketing and direct sales. So our team receives leads from marketing, qualifies them, and then passes them along to the direct sales reps accordingly. So everything we've discussed so far is extremely important, but the purpose of my presentation here is to make sure that you don't allow your analysis to stop at the top of the funnel. Over the years, myself and Lisa, Brenda, and Elena, we forged a really great working relationship between sales and marketing by using data as the basis for our conversations and as the basis for our interactions. So all the analyses that I'm about to show are ones that are mutually looked at by leaders in our sales and marketing organizations, and they serve to create a true feedback loop that's entirely based on data. So without further ado, let's have a look. So here is a report. We call them looks here at Looker because we're cute like that, that shows the leads that have been handed off from the marketing team to the sales team. The light blue bar that you can see down at the far left corner of the chart here is showing the number of leads that are in sales reps queues, SDR queues, but have not yet been called or emailed. We call them untouched leads. They are marketing qualified, they have not yet been called, they are untouched. The purple bar, the taller bar that you can see, shows the number of leads that are in sales rep queues that are actively being called or emailed. We call these leads working leads. They are currently being worked by a sales development rep. And the green line that's overlaid shows the percent of leads that fall into the untouched category. So of the total leads that have been handed off to SDRs, the green line shows what percent of those leads are still untouched. The x-axis is showing the channel by which the leads were generated. And so we can see, looking at the far left column here, that the pay-per-click leads, the PPC leads, about 7.2% of those leads that have been delivered to the sales team remain untouched. So this analysis serves two purposes. The first is that it creates a system of mutual accountability. Sales managers have expectations about how many leads are going to be generated and passed to their reps, and marketing managers expect that their leads get worked in real time. And this streamlines both of those conversations. The second thing this does is it creates an awareness for channel managers to see how their leads are being worked. So if an events manager, for example, creates hundreds of leads in a single day after an event or trade show, she can keep an eye on this analysis to understand when her leads are actually getting worked by the sales team and have an understanding of what that SLA should be in the future. So we can move beyond this beyond lead generation and instead look more closely at lead quality. So this is a report, this is a look that will give us a little bit more information about the quality of the leads that are being passed to us. And this exact analysis is how we get beyond the qualitative conversation that Brenda and Lisa have mentioned. And that conversation is mostly traditionally between sales and marketing, just sales reps whining at marketing managers about lead quality being low. This allows for us to have an informed approach to that conversation and to truly see the analysis and the numbers behind those comments. So channel managers can assess the true quality of their leads by tracking how well the leads they're delivering to sales development reps are converting to the next step in the sales cycle and being handed off to the sales team to initiate the sales cycle. You can see the lead count as the orange bar and opportunity count as the yellow bar, and then the conversion rate from lead to opportunity is the line chart that's overlaid. So with this report, marketing managers can compare their channels versus other channels and work with colleagues in marketing and sales to understand if and how they can deliver leads that are more likely to convert. Can we reach out to different personas? Can we change some keywords in our pay-per-click ads? What kind of tweaks and changes can we make on a channel-by-channel basis to increase the conversion rate, increase the number of leads that are passed off to sales? Additionally, marketing leaders can use this kind of analysis as the starting point to understand their ROI on various channels and determine the optimal way to allocate their spend. Let's look one step further at conversion rate trends by channel. So here is a view of how leads created via pay-per-click channels are created each week over week and are converting week over week. So from the last slide, we simply drill into the pay-per-click channel and then we add a time field dimension to the x-axis. So just like the previous report, the bars in the back are showing the lead count and the opportunity count, and the line chart that's overlaid shows the conversion rate from lead to opportunity. So with this data, channel managers are able to understand the trends and get more visibility into the efficacy of their efforts. So when a new strategy is pursued, this kind of analysis gives extra information to assess the success or not of those new tests. But for example, if a pay-per-click manager is testing a new keyword or a new search term, they can see a change, good or bad, in the conversion rate week over week. And based on the quantitative results, combined with the qualitative feedback from sales, she can decide how best to allocate her budget moving forward. This has been a really powerful framework to guide decision-making over the years here at Looker. It has ensured a constant and, most important, a productive conversation between sales and marketing. And that's all I had. So I'm going to give it back now to Elena to start the Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. And thank you, Lisa and Brenda. Kyle, I think the first thing that I'd really like to do is dig into that comment that you closed with around the alignment of sales and marketing. I know it's a relationship that can be strained sometimes. How have you guys, maybe Brenda and Lisa as well, really seen that change and adjust with operational data? Lisa, I'll give it to you first. Oh, or Kyle, that's great, perfect.
I'll take a stab at this because I think it's interesting, and we've created an environment, I believe, where we still listen to the individual sales reps when they have qualitative feedback. We can't discount the importance of that. We need to understand the actual content of the conversations that the SDR team is having with prospects when they're following up on the phone and the back and forth they're having via email. And it's important to have a qualitative understanding of how things are going. But what's nice is that the negativity that is often produced in those conversations is tempered by the data that exists behind it. So if we're getting qualitative feedback that certain sales reps are saying to marketing managers, hey, these leads are of low quality, or something is not right with these leads, we basically have an instinctual reaction now to say, we hear you, now we're going to go validate, we're going to go check the data. And so we can, and it's not to disprove them necessarily, it's just to say, is this kind of a one-off thing that you've experienced and are now suffering from maybe a bit of recency bias? Or is this a real issue that we can really see in the data and then figure out a way to address and solve? So that's kind of the reaction that we have now. It's very well understood between marketing and sales development that we want the feedback, and we're always going to double check that qualitative feedback with the quantitative analysis so that we have a really powerful framework to move forward.
If I could jump in there as well, one of the things I have noticed is if we come forth with data first when we're talking to somebody, it helps neutralize not just the emotions, but it also helps neutralize any tensions that might naturally exist, like one person saying, you're not doing enough for me, and that person then feeling defensive. So one of the things we've noticed that works well is teams will have a group dashboard. So maybe the first portion is the marketing metrics, and the marketing person is saying, here's how things are performing. And then the SDR person will talk about, here's how we are at converting that marketing data to the sales funnel. And then the sales team will talk about sales metrics, pipeline, maybe pipeline by sales rep or pipeline by region or country. And then people are just coming in with the facts. So maybe egos are a little bit more neutralized that way. And then the group can dig in on issues. Maybe the bottom issue, the core issue is maybe there's not enough pipeline for a specific territory, maybe the Midwest. And then the group together can dig in and find out, well, what's been going wrong? Or gosh, we just simply need to do something else.
It sounds like from what I can take away from, sorry, go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to say, to piggyback on that, I think we've also had the ability to give marketing and sales a broader view than just their particular world, because obviously each of us is focused on driving our particular goals, but by having a view throughout the entire pipeline and having these common dashboards, it gives us a better understanding of the other departments' worlds and how they work and how what we're doing has an impact on them.
I think that really what we've heard is that it kind of removes emotion, which is unfortunate that it's such a huge key player. But when you kind of start to remove that, you can actually start to talk to people as opposed to problems. And that seems really powerful. Kind of, piggybacking off of that, as you've started to have access to more and more data and really just collect more and more data over the years, how has the conversation around operationalizing it, around marketing data, maybe even the conversations with sales, how has that evolved? Brenda, I'll let you kick off this one.
I would say for me, the way that it's really evolved, and particularly over the last year or so, has been it's much more about optimization and much smaller nuances. We've been talking about conversion rates and funnels and volumes and things like that for quite a while now and have a pretty good understanding of that. But now we're getting much more nuanced in terms of looking at data recency and pipeline to spend ratios and how long does it take for us to follow up and SLA adherence. So I would say we're getting much more detailed in the way that we look at it now because we do have such a bigger access to data.
Thanks, Brenda. This is Lisa. One of the things that I've really noticed the last, probably 5 years is the access to a large quantity of data, and maybe not just your web analytics or your Google AdWords data, but data across multiple points of the funnel, so that as a marketing manager, it's good and bad, right? I have the ability to say this marketing program or this marketing mix or campaign has delivered these outcomes at multiple points across the marketing funnel. So that's great. I have deeper insight because I have multiple data points joined together. The challenging point is that I have so many more answers to questions to make answers to, and I can't just say I had this kind of response rate on my email. So it's gotten broader, meaning the access is just improved.
Super interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I think maybe Kyle and I were talking about this earlier. We're a little younger in our careers, and it's been really, really neat to have this be really a core part of how we think about things and how our default is. You know, Kyle, kind of you mentioned that as it's like an instinct is to go to the data, right?
Yeah, that's right. I don't know another way, which I feel very fortunate. I'm not, I completely have to defer to Lisa and Brenda's experience to understand what it was like before the access to this data, because we, you know, for the last 5 or 6 years at Looker have really relied on data to guide every conversation, and it's forged a really strong relationship.
Totally agree. It's been a very cool thing to see. So I guess as we're talking about kind of adding data to the conversation and adding, you know, that ability to find things and ask questions of data, has there been places like where you didn't really think that you hadn't really considered using data to really drive that conversation or have that question? In places that it helped you that you didn't maybe think that it could? Brenda?
I would say where I had not necessarily expected to see data is probably reiterating some of what Lisa said. It's just the amount and level of data that is actually accessible and usable is so much bigger than I would have personally imagined it to be, and that you can actually dig into such minute details to really get a solid understanding of your business and how it works in a way that honestly 5 years ago, and I'm really sounding like the old person on this call, but I mean, even just a few years ago, I never would have imagined being able to answer the kinds of questions that I can now because I can get such detailed information.
Lisa?
Yeah, I guess one of the biggest things I have, and it comes back to the part of the conversation about multiple points of data. One of the things that marketing has been saying for years, and this is the art side, everything marketing does creates some sort of halo effect. We go to a trade show, you might have people coming to the website, but you can't attribute them to the trade show because they weren't scanned at your trade show booth. So that halo effect has been much mystified and much talked about. Very often the finance people, when I talk about the halo, they just kind of shake their head. When you have multiple points of data or multiple platform data points, you're actually able to plot that data and see see that halo. So if you're able to put all of your PPC data on a chart and then overlay it with web traffic data, you can see that the weeks that maybe you had lower PPC, you had lower organic data. Or the week you had a trade show, you had a big increase in organic traffic, and there was nothing else going on. So you kind of are able to, at least have some sort of data proof to that halo. So that I really appreciated that.
So our next question comes from the audience. Again, I would encourage people to throw any questions that they have in there. Is the question about cohorting and snapshots. Basically, how are we able to handle this by looking at cohorts, and do we use any sort of snapshots of the data? Kyle, do you want to kick this one off?
Sure thing, yeah. It depends on the type of cohort analysis that's being referenced. Using Looker, we are able to slice and dice the data basically in as many ways as you can possibly imagine, whether that's by the size of the company or the segment of the salesperson or the day, week, month that leads were created or opportunities were created, and infinitely more. So the cohort analysis, is very easy to do with Looker. I don't believe we have any screenshots of anything pre-prepared to show, but I will say from a snapshot perspective, that does get a bit more complicated because a lot of the snapshotting capabilities will have to do with how the data itself is stored. But we have, Looker allows for a pretty flexible reporting solution whereby you can set up different reports to be scheduled and sent to yourself or to your team at various intervals. So if you're curious to kind of catalog a snapshot week over week, you can get those reports sent to you each week and then have sort of a library of progress. You can also work with your data analytics team to create a sort of framework for snapshots and analysis and things like that. But again, it largely depends on the data systems that you're using.
Cool. Any thoughts on that from Brenda or Lisa? Or we have a new question from the audience, kind of getting into more, I guess, of the product side of this. We really started talking about Looker. How is Looker different than Tableau? It really depends on where you want to start. But I think what I've seen is that ability to really have that data be super fresh and super dynamic, and the freedom of having all of your data in one place, which is the way that Looker operates, and giving us the end users the ability to dive in and get into the nitty-gritty of it is really where I see the difference. Lisa, you want to comment?
I haven't used Tableau before, but from looking at different things that I've heard about them, I think one of the really important things with Looker is the ability to drill in deeper. Because the data is modeled on the back end and multiple data sources are linked together, again, you're seeing it all in one spot, and it's extremely reusable. So I'm seeing all of the same linked data that Kyle is seeing or that a sales manager is seeing. The conversion rate math, so how did I calculate the conversion rate for lead to closed won, is going to be the same as Kyle is looking at it. So when we get into our meetings and we're looking at that shared dashboard, we don't have to argue with each other about, well, my math is different than your math. So that's what I'm understanding that one of the big differences is.
Definitely. So hopefully that answered your question. Oh, go for it.
Elena, I was
let's go for it.
Chime in with one more sort of major difference, and Lisa and Elena have both alluded to it already, but I want to make a bit of a finer point around it. Is a major difference between Looker and Tableau is that Looker connects directly to your underlying database and models the business logic right from there, whereas Tableau requires you to move data from your database into Tableau servers, and therefore you're analyzing a subset of the data that you've moved from your database to Tableau servers. Whereas Looker allows you to have the entire universe of your data at your fingertips for analysis, which allows for what Lisa is referring to, common business metrics, common definitions, as well as the cross-functional sorts of analysis that we've sort of been alluding to before. So historically, marketing analytics had been limited just to what Google Analytics is delivering to us or what Marketo Analytics is delivering to us, and it's sort of been in its own universe. But because Looker allows you to combine different data sources and combine different data sets, we can look at how is our Google Analytics data affecting our Salesforce data and our opportunity creation, and what that we're generating via Google Analytics is leading to closed business. And typically drawing the, building the bridge or drawing the connection between those two very different but related pieces of analysis is very difficult, and that's what Looker allows you to do.
Very well said. Very well said, Kyle. So this next question is about operationalizing data for direct mail campaigns. I think actually Lisa has some interesting insights on this guy for you.
Yes, that's a great question. I have actually not done direct mail here at Looker with the current data systems, but I, of course, have done direct mail back in the day. And we did actually do radio, though, podcast advertising last year. And so I think that's the best correlation. And what we were able to do is, and you can do this with direct mail, is as long as you're able to identify the people that you are marketing to in your list, in your system. So if you're using Marketo or Eloqua or some other marketing automation, you of course have your list. And as long as you're able to cohort and group them, you are able then to track them to any sort of response. With radio, of course, you don't necessarily know who you're hitting, so you kind of just have to look at a regional cohort. So as long as you're able to set up your lists so that you can identify them in your system when they respond, you may not even have to do the classic source code or anything like that, or direct mail offer code. As long as they're in your system and identified, and then if they respond maybe within a certain time frame, let's say 2 to 3 months, give yourself a window there for people to respond to the mail. You can then attribute them to that direct mail campaign as a member of that campaign. That's what I think I would do just off the top of my head real quick.
Brenda or Kyle, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think Lisa covered it pretty well there.
Perfect. That's why she's the boss. Great. So the next thing I kind of want to switch gears and talk about planning and talk about we've mentioned goals a lot, but of course to hit a goal you have to set a goal. How has operationalizing the data really impacted that? For this one, I think we'll start with Brenda.
Yeah, so the way that we're actually going through a lot of this process right now, going into the next quarter and going into the next year, being able to really have a strong view of kind of historical averages, what have we done in the past, looking at how different regions, different types of campaigns, different types of channels that we're going after, what do they typically get, how are they trending, and then using that as a basis of a conversation with our different channel managers, with the sales team, with the finance team to understand what the targets are. Having that data accessible and operationalized has really made the planning process much more scientific and much more programmatic, so that as we're putting our plans together, we have a really solid feel that the numbers that we put out there are actually realistic and attainable and something that we can shoot for and not just throwing darts at a wall.
Perfect. Kyle?
Yeah, I'll echo those similar sentiments. I don't know how we would address planning without this type of goal setting and the segmentation and slicing and dicing and everything. I just couldn't agree more with how Brenda broke it down just then. It's this level of analysis informs the level of granularity that we're able to pursue from a planning standpoint. And Lisa mentioned it before a couple questions ago that granularity can be a double-edged sword. You can get pretty deep in the weeds, but it's important. It's important to have the conversation and to make sure that everybody's on the same page, to really have a realistic understanding of what is possible and what the steps are going to be that we have to take along the way, and we view those steps in a sort of a funnel analysis type form, what the steps are that we are going to need to achieve to hit that end goal. And the end goal can be as fine as what are we trying to produce this quarter in Alabama, to as grand as what are we trying to produce globally. And what's really nice about this level of analysis is we're able to do both of those things just as easily as the other. So this type of teamwork, this type of analysis informs every bit of planning that we do on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis.
Perfect. And it seems like, I mean, if you're using data to create the goals and the planning, I'm guessing that also is, draws back to how you then go and, measure your team and understand their performance. How you have a fleet of SDRs under you. Is that something you see?
Yes, absolutely. So the planning that we produce from a marketing perspective informs then the way that we structure quotas for teams and individuals in the sales development organization. So the goals that marketing has for itself are the next step down in granularity is how those goals are broken out by SDR team and then by SDR individual. And we can track all sorts of quota attainment or not via the similar sorts of reports and dashboards, and really get an understanding of how people are doing toward the goals that we have set for them. And we can go one step further than that and extend the same type of analysis that we just discussed from a marketing perspective into the realm of sales and sales development. So, we don't just stop by looking at attainment and how many opportunities are being created by the sales development team. We can have individual coaching sessions based on, of the leads that you have received, Mr. or Mrs. Individual SDR, how are you converting those leads to opportunities, and how does that conversion rate compare to your peers on the sales development team? And we can sort of do benchmarking type exercises and coaching exercises based on those benchmarks. So this type of data analysis is great for planning, it's great for setting goals, and it's also really, really useful for performance management conversations.
Super. So the next question we have here is, again, around the Looker product. And the question is, does Looker integrate, how does Looker integrate with Salesforce and Google AdWords accounts and other backend systems? I can touch on that briefly. So the way that Looker works is that we connect to any sort of relational database where you store all of your company's data, with the idea that data is more powerful when it's together. From there, we have something called blocks that we pop on top of those that get you up and running with kind of the best of breed analyses for Salesforce and for AdWords. And then, off to the races you go. We also are working on some new products. I can't tell you too much, but exciting new products that will actually help exactly what you're looking for. Whoever asked this question, I would encourage you to reach out to us about that, because I think we have something that could be incredibly useful for you. But that's a short answer. Does anybody else want to pop onto that? Great. I take your silence as no.
I think that covers it.
Great. Cool. Well, I think the last thing I really just want to get at is, I think that we have a webinar panel of kind of data nerds and people who get a little bit too excited about things that are, operational or automated. And so my final question for all of you is what I'd love to hear about is kind of, what are you looking forward to, or what, operationalization of data have you recently really nerded out on? Brenda, do you want to kick us off?
I think the thing that I'm looking forward to getting more into, so we've done a lot of attribution modeling as part of our campaign planning and the way that we look at campaign success, and we've been very much focused on how how we bring in leads into our system and how those leads are converting into new business. And so we've been very much focused on the growth of our business being a newer company. We're starting to get more into looking at the buyer journey and what are the different things that our buyers engage with throughout their life cycle of working with us as both a prospect as well as a customer, and as well as looking at what are the things that get them over the line, what took them from just being a casual, interested person on the website to actually engaging with us. And so doing a lot more with the different types of attribution and applying them in different scenarios.
Sweet. Kyle?
One thing that I'm particularly excited about is to start to do, and you're right, by the way, Elena, I am a complete sucker for this type of thing. I think it's super important to care about the data and to make decisions that are informed based on data. And one of the optimizations that we're hoping to make here in the immediate term is to start to have more robust analysis around, from a sales perspective, a sales development perspective, the speed to lead. So when is that lead created? How long does it take for Brenda and the marketing operations systems to run to score leads and pass them to SDRs for follow-up? And then once that SDR, or once that lead is in an SDR queue for follow-up, how long does it take the SDR to actually dial the phone and get a hold of that person? And so we can start to learn a lot more about the velocity of those leads, and we can extend that analysis to say, you know, if we follow up with this person or with this type of person or with this lead channel within X number of minutes or hours, this is how the conversion rate from lead to opportunity is affected. And so we can start to go more layers deep in on the analysis and in on the optimization. And all of that is allowed by us having this really solid foundation of analytical thinking that has us all on the same page and has us able to not have to spend a ton of time on the higher order conversations and really allow us, as Brenda said earlier, to focus on the tweaks and focus on the optimizations and focus on the parts of the funnel that may be a bit leaky and we can plug. So that's what I'm most excited about in the short term.
I'm excited about that too. This all sounds like great optimization for Looker. Lisa, you want to finish this out?
Sure. I guess what I'm thinking about from a data standpoint are those other MarTech tools that are coming onto the market. Not that I necessarily have the budget to go buy them, but these artificial intelligence tools that look at your data and are able to then say, you have a new person on your website or an email or on the phone, and what do we need to do to get them to complete the action that you want them to do? So they look like a lead that came through previously, and we fed that lead a previous message or an offer, and we got them to complete the action. So I'm really looking forward to just industry-wide advancements in those tools because it'll just make marketing far more effective and personalized because we're going to be able to be more exact.
Agreed. So listening to you guys talk about this, I can't help but give you guys my own excitement. I've recently really been digging into Looker's ability to schedule and send alerts. I've been really trying to drive adoption of certain technologies and certain movements by sales reps. And so what I've been able to do is create alerts for myself and also though for those sales reps when they take that first move that should trigger them to do what I want them to do and reminds them very nicely to do it. And then also tells me that there's someone new who may need my help on these things. So that's my 2 cents on this matter. This has been super interesting, you guys, and I really appreciate everybody for taking the time to hop on. I think we have a group of people here who could go on and on all day about how much they love data. It's really good that we work for a data company. We found our place. But thank you to everyone who joined today. Just to kind of wrap everything up, a quick summary. Data is important, and it's important everywhere, and it's important that you look at it by all of the different segments and slice it in all the different ways. Additionally, continuously tracking KPIs and measuring these across time and really being able to see how things are changing is also very important. Creating that QA dashboard, really data, as I said earlier, data fails silently, and so being able to keep tags on that will help you track the leads through the funnel. And finally, that data can really ensure that your sales team is following up with leads and also can just generally improve that relationship between sales and marketing to open those communication lines and have the real-time visibility into everything that's going on. Before I leave you, I just want to make a quick plug. On October 9th through 11th, we are having a data conference in San Francisco called Join. If you want to hear more from Lisa, she will actually be speaking. So it's a great time, and there's lots of great marketing data to nerd out on. And if you'd like to learn more about Looker, we have an email address, we have a link, we have everything you could possibly need. And with that, I will pass it back to Megan and thank everybody for coming.
Thank you all. Really great content. Okay, that's all the time that we have today. I'd like to thank today's speakers, Elena, Kyle, Brenda, and Lisa, and our audience for joining us. To learn more from today's webinar, don't forget to check out the resource list to the right-hand side of your audience console. And as a reminder, this presentation will be available on demand, and a link will be sent to you after the webinar. Have a great day, everyone.